Hey, before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button to catch more stories like this. I used to believe that silence could be comforting, a pause between arguments, a brief shelter before a storm. But everything changed the night Julia confessed. It was late. The apartment smelled faintly of jasmine, though I hadn't lit any candles. The living room lamp cast soft, stretched shadows across the walls, patient and slow. I was sitting on the edge of the couch, scrolling through emails, when she walked in. The air shifted the instant she spoke, heavy and almost tangible. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice small, fragile. I didn't look up. I didn't move. Years of tiny betrayals and unspoken disappointments had taught me that some words deserve quiet before they were met. "Something happened," she continued, each syllable catching in her throat. She paced slowly, deliberate steps, grounding herself. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did, and now I can't undo it. I finally set the email aside and met her eyes. Julia, my partner of 6 years, the woman I'd shared mornings, late nights, and countless whisper promises with, now looked like she carried a weight I'd never seen before. She paused, searching my face, looking for a reaction, any reaction. I stayed silent, not because I felt nothing. My chest was tight, my hands cold, my mind racing in ways I hadn't imagined, but because sometimes silence isn't emptiness. Sometimes silence is the loudest thing in the room. Sometimes it carries truths words can't reach. Her hands trembled as she wrapped them around herself. "Please, just hear me." I did, but I didn't speak. I let the quiet fill the apartment, stretch and twist and settle like storm clouds that refused to move. The room felt smaller, heavier. The lamp flickered. My heartbeat sounded louder than any confession she could offer. For a long moment, nothing happened. No tears, no shouting, no apologies. Just silence. A sharp, cutting silence that pierced the comfort of our years together. And in that silence, I felt it all. Betrayal, heartbreak, confusion, and strangely clarity. I had learned long ago that some moments don't need words. Some truths reveal themselves only in the tension, in the pause, in the quiet that grows until it's almost unbearable. That night, the silence screamed louder than anything Julia could say. Minutes passed, suspended in some strange, weightless time. Julia kept glancing at me, eyes wide, pleading, as though she expected me to erupt or forgive or break down. I stayed still, letting her confession settle like dust in a sunbeam. Finally, she sank onto the couch across from me. The space between us felt like a canyon. Neither of us moved. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered, almost like a prayer. "It just happened. One mistake, and it's inside me. I can't take it back." I nodded just slightly. Not because I understood or accepted, but because acknowledgement was all I could offer. Words would fail me. I wasn't angry in the dramatic sense. I wasn't even fully sad yet. I was observing, taking in the shock, experiencing it raw and unfiltered. Her hands twisted at the hem of her sweater, knuckles pale. "Please say something. Anything. I can't handle the silence." I leaned back, exhaling slowly. "I hear you." Her relief was immediate, a soft sigh that almost tricked me into believing we were fine. But I didn't continue. I let the quiet speak, let it demand attention in ways words never could. Sometimes a pause between sentences carries more weight than the sentences themselves. The weight of our lives together, the trust we had built, the cracks I had always sensed but never named, all pressed down like gravity. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. I watched her wrestle with guilt, shame, fragmented confessions spilling from her lips. The specifics didn't matter. The magnitude did. Every unspoken thought, every flicker of regret, every tremor of fear. I felt them, not as accusation, but as clarity. Then I realized what I couldn't do. I couldn't forgive. Not yet. I couldn't pretend nothing had changed. That apartment, that room, that quiet, it had shifted. It was alive, a living presence between us. I stood and paced to the window. The city lights shimmered like fractured glass. Julia's eyes followed me, desperate for some signal, some reaction, some reassurance that the bond we shared hadn't fully broken. But I gave her nothing. No tears, no yelling, no pleading. The silence bore the weight of her confession. It screamed truth louder than any apology could. Not cruelty, not vengeance, just truth. The first truth we shared that night. By midnight, the apartment had grown colder, though the heater hummed softly. Julia curled into the corner of the couch, blanket draped over her shoulders, eyes glossy and tired. Her confession had spilled like a river, but the dam had already broken long before she spoke. I saw it in her trembling hands, the catch in her breath, the way she avoided meeting my gaze directly. I sat opposite her. The distance between us was no longer measured in feet, but in years of trust and shared memories. A chair beside me, an unspoken invitation come closer, remained untouched. Not yet, maybe never. I didn't know how to tell you, she whispered again, almost inaudible. I stayed silent, letting the quiet hold the room like an invisible jury. Every confession, every tremor, every unspoken apology, absorbed, magnified, reflected back at her. She shrank under it, realizing her admission was only half the story. Silence was the other half, unyielding, unblinking, demanding acknowledgement without excuse. Minutes stretched into eternity. The clock ticked, metronome to the tension thickening the room. My hands rested on my knees. My eyes followed her tiny movements, the way her lips pressed together, fingers twisting in the blanket, shadows painting fear and regret across her face. Finally, I spoke softly, almost as an afterthought. Julia, I need time. Her head lifted, hope flickering. Time to forgive? I shook my head slightly. Time to understand. Time to see what remains when silence is louder than words. Her face fell, but I saw comprehension too. She had expected anger, tears, yelling. Instead, I offered quiet, and it was heavier than anything she imagined. I moved to the window again, city lights reflecting my silhouette. We'll figure out what comes next, I said, not a promise, but a statement of reality. But tonight, the quiet speaks louder than anything we can say. She stayed on the couch, small and still, letting the silence wash over her like cold water. And in that quiet, I understood something essential. Confessions are fragile. They shake foundations, yes, but sometimes it's the space around them, the pauses, the silences, the unspoken reactions that reveal the truth of everything. The night stretched on. The apartment held only the soft hum of the heater and distant city sounds. And in that quiet, I realized some screams aren't made of noise. Some screams live in the spaces between words, in the weight of what is left unsaid.